Hello, homies, and a very warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. Today, we get to hang out with my beautiful friend who cannot be put in a box, Miss Janey Lavell from Ireland. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Eugenie. So nice to be here. And hello to everybody out there, wherever you are.
Well, the accent
Really,
might have
really,
given it
yeah.
away that you're not from Ireland. You're a fellow Kiwi originally.
I
Um,
am. Kia ora, kia ora,
kia
kia
ora.
ora. Yeah, I am. I'm a Kiwi. I left there a long time ago when I was 18, Eugenie. So,
18. So
mm,
were all four of your children born in Ireland?
I had two of them in New Zealand and two of them here, actually in this village where my practice is now and it's grown. Yeah.
That is so cool. And we were just before we started recording, I'm like, how do I even introduce you, Janey? Because you just do like everything. I think just like goddess, alchemist, weaver of mystery and magic. I don't know. What would you
Oh.
call yourself?
It's so hard to put yourself into a kind of a what are you, who are you? I think I'm a homeopath. I think I'm quite esoteric and eccentric in my homeopathy, and that my style of homeopathy is really heavily influenced by all my years of being an energy healer and Reiki practitioner and a massage therapist. So yeah, it is hard to kind of put a label on what I do. And even some of my clients would say to me, if they come in for physical work and they've never been to me before, they would often say, I don't know what you did, but something is completely different in me now. And, even in fact, last night I was at a cacao ceremony and I met a lady there that I worked at a festival this year in July at the yoga picnic here in Ireland and was doing healing sessions there, massage and energy alchemy work. And she stumbled across me and I was actually leaving my bell tent to go for lunch and we started chatting and she just burst into tears and she said, I really need your help. I said, okay, come on, let's go into the
Oh.
tent and just got her onto the table and started to do some work on her, working in her energy field to start with. And then I said, okay, we need to do some somatic work with this. Your body is in trauma. Let's do a massage, some healing, some tuning forks. We'll see what comes up. So I worked on her and she had this massive, massive release, like sobbing the whole time, really. So there's all this trauma is coming up. So part of the session was really about helping her to stabilize so that she could process the trauma and then also leave my space so that she's in a place where she can be rather than going back out into the world still feeling how she was feeling.
Hmm.
Anyway, it was so full on. It was really, really powerful. And she left the bell tent and went off out into the festival. And I didn't get her phone number. I didn't even know what her name was. And last night I met her at the cacao ceremony and she said, whatever you did that day, I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, it changed my life.
Oh.
And, you hear those, I was so humbled by it. You hear those things from people and you just think, wow, they have put the hard work in. She came to me, she activated that healing herself. I just facilitated what needed to come through and what needed to move in her. And she just said she came home, she's made all these changes in her life, and she's a different person from it. So, what I did that day was completely different to all the other sessions that I did that day as well. So, you work on people come and they allow me to know what to do by the way their body is, how they're holding themselves. And actually, at the end of that session with her, I gave her the Maria Magdalena remedy as well that we had triturated in France over the summer solstice. But yeah, to define what I do, yeah, it's
Well,
hard, isn't it?
I'm
I don't
really
know.
glad you insisted that I have a session with you before I interviewed you. And that was it about 6 weeks ago, so that we had our first session and then another session just recently gone.
The other
But
day, yeah.
if you didn't do that, I had no idea really what you did until that session. And it's really like, I have such a better understanding of what you do now, but there's no way that you could have like really just explained that, because you can't really put it into words what it is that you do. But after you did it, I'm like, oh, I kind of get where you're coming from now, because it's something that cannot be put into a box. I would describe it as magic, because I've had this back pain on my lower right for years, and I woke up from that session. So just to kind of set the scene for our listeners. So Janey's in Ireland, I'm in Perth. We booked in a session. It was about 9 p.m. my time. So it would have been about 2, 3-ish p.m. your time. And Janey did an hour's healing, and she sent me a link for this frequency meditation to listen to while she was doing this healing. And I just had this beautiful, I felt really connected to you while we were doing it. And then I woke up the next morning, and I think my intention for this session was to tap a bit more into my feminine. So I didn't really think about my lower back, but the next morning I woke up and this lower back pain that I've had for a couple of years was gone, which was very interesting, because I've been seeing an osteopath for it and not noticed too much change. So that was surprising, because I wasn't expecting a physical change. I was expecting, mental, emotional changes, feeling a bit lighter and more in tune and all that. But then the WhatsApp messages that Janey sent me afterwards, so these beautiful cards that you drew and the wisdom that came from that. And I've still got my obsidian necklace that you got me to wear. So advising which crystals to wear, and the frequencies that you were sending via distance. And it was just magical. And it's very hard to put into words. It was just something magical that happened, and very, things that shifted subtly and not so subtly.
Do you want me to explain a little bit how I work?
Yeah, I do, because, I usually start off the session with asking people how they got introduced to homeopathy. But seeing as we're on a roll here, maybe we can stick with it, and I'll come back later and ask you how you got into homeopathy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, explain what you're doing.
My healing space here, this is, and you can see in the corner I have my apothecary and my radionics machine. So I like to be really precise, as you know, with my healing. So when I'm doing them from a distance, I always get your full name and your date of birth, your time of birth, if you know it, and your place of birth, and then where you are. Because for me, when I trained to be a Reiki practitioner, my 2 Reiki masters were just, they're the most incredible people. But I was traveling, I was backpacking at the time. And so the first thing I started doing was distance healings, because my friends and family were all around the world. And that's over 16 years ago now. So my technique has been refined a lot in those years, and I've come to know that the more exact I am when I'm working on somebody, and like that, getting the time, the place, and where they are and stuff, that is the exact portal that you incarnated on, that time, that date, that place. Okay, so I can be really specific on that soul, your physical entry into the mortal realm, so that's important for me. So you're on the table here with me, and I'm greeting you with the most care, love, attention, always asking for permission to do the work. And I just drop in straight away. I'm standing at your feet, asking to be shown what needs to be healed. Can you reveal to me what needs to be done? Where do I need to work on you? Which chakra is the most depleted or stagnant, or which gland? Because we all know each chakra is associated with a particular gland. And I just go from there. I'm dowsing a lot. I learned to dowse when I was 18. I left New Zealand, Eugenie, and before I left, I went to see a tarot card reader, and I walked in and she was like, oh, you brought someone with you. And my friend and I, who were traveling together, had queued up separately, because I was like, let's see if we can, pull some strings over this tarot card reader's eye to see if she's psychic or not. But she was actually saying, my grandfather was with me. He's one of your guides. And after that session, it was the most amazing tarot card reading, my first one. She said, you need to buy some tarot cards and learn to dowse. So I left that session and we went straight to an esoteric shop and in Whakatane in New Zealand, and bought some tarot cards and bought a pendulum. And so I'm really good at dowsing. So I'll douse you, I'll scan you, douse you, and then, so for you, for instance, do you mind if I talk a little bit about
Yeah,
your
go
first
for it.
session?
Yeah.
It was your Earth Star chakra, Vasundhara. And so it was like there was a lot of ungrounding for Eugenie to start with. And because she's working really intentionally at the moment with activating her intuition and stepping more into her feminine self, you know that if you're not fully grounded, you can't stabilize, activate, and keep all your energy centers and your physical self in this kind of this body. So for Eugenie, I started immediately there, grounding her, getting her to visualize her roots being down, or the golden thread, or whatever. And like when I'm working on somebody, I might hear something, or I'll suddenly go, oh, there's a tarot card coming through, or there's a particular crystal that's calling you. And I don't know if it's, you know, people put labels on everything. Oh, it's clairvoyance, it's clairaudience, it's this, that, it's the other. It's just for me a sense of feeling, and like it's your energy that I'm working with. So I've learned to park my own stuff, because I learned to douse for so long, you know, so many years. You have to be neutral. And so when I'm doing the distance healings, I'm always in that neutral space, and I'm always asking, can I get some more information here? I need some deeper insights on this. So for Eugenie, it was like she had in her Vasundhara, she had wisdom on the feminine, wisdom on the masculine, and then her career started to come through. So then she got cards for the career side of things in the masculine, in the feminine, and then her soul wanted to come through to say about her career, her soul career in this incarnation, and it just unfolds from there. I try to do each chakra, so you have information on each chakra, but sometimes you only get three. I only need to work on three. And I'm also tuning in by, I'll be working on your Vasundhara, and then I'll go to the radionics machine and I will broadcast the frequency that is required in that time as well. So for Eugenie, I was broadcasting Vasundhara, but other times when I've been working on people in that particular energy center, I'll broadcast the frequency of Earth or a pyramid or something that helps them to anchor in to whatever it is they need. And it's beautiful. I love doing those healings so much. And then afterwards, I send them a tailored frequency. So here's your one, Eugenie. I have to post it
Oh,
today.
thank you.
And it's homeopathic, but it's also being programmed by the radionics machine, by the tuning forks, by me, because I always Reiki the remedy as well. And Eugenie also got a sacred symbol. She got the Tibetan cross, so I'll charge it on that as well. You know, it's all these kind of different modalities. And because I traveled so extensively, I've kind of borrowed all these things from my travels that I learned and bring them into my practice in a way that benefit my clients.
Oh, and what I really enjoyed is the WhatsApp messages that you sent afterwards, and the screenshots that you sent of the cards and the symbolism behind it and the messages. And there's so much wisdom in that. And it's so nice to kind of integrate that into your own time. And you have such a beautiful voice. So it's lovely to listen to.
Oh,
And,
thank
I really enjoy that side of it as well. That's really nice.
I think that's really important. That's what's different about the kind of just a straight Reiki session, is often you don't get any feedback in a distance healing. And then the energy alchemy is all the learned modalities. And then, yeah, I feed back, like I'll give you a voice note on each energy center. I'll send the tarot and oracle cards. Sometimes I'll send the crystals to you that I use in your session, or like for Eugenie, she got the oil Mai Chang. She needs to do a massage into her solar plexus every day with the oil Mai Chang to keep her central nervous system vitalized and like at an energy level that can sustain her, because she's working so hard, putting a lot of time and energy into everybody else. So it's a way of looking after herself. It's kind of like a cross between grapefruit and orange and a really beautiful flower. It's really citrusy and it's really energizing. So, you know, Eugenie, when I started, that's not how I would do my distance healings, it would just be like, the hands in the energy field of whoever I'm working on and go from there. So after kind of 16 years of being a Reiki practitioner and teacher, my sessions have, evolved and modified to meet not just me evolving and changing as a practitioner, but also where we are kind of on an astrological level and stuff, because we're going through such a huge transition energetically. And also, there's this real push and pull happening at the minute because the age of Pisces is starting to come to a close and the age of Aquarius is really upon us, so all this awakenings that are happening, also happening for me as well, because I'm getting to work with people that are at the start of their journey, at the middle of the journey, beyond even my journey. So it's been a real privilege to work with other homeopaths, because people are seeking more than one modality now. And it's really important that I think that we encourage that for our clients, that homeopathy is so amazing, totally incredible system of medicine, but you need more than that a lot of the times, and my practice here, I really encourage that. I work with the most amazing chiropractic medicine woman, witchy woman, my best friend Sheila O'Brien. She's just unbelievable. And then another really, really good friend, Cora. She's a physio and a acupuncturist. Another friend, Mary Jane. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner. We have this amazing melting pot of practitioners around us. 2 centers have opened up here recently, a natural therapies healing center and a yoga studio. All these healers are finally coming out of the woodwork, and we have to embrace them, utilize them, and encourage our clients to try something else. Get some acupuncture for that and come back to me in 6 weeks, and we'll see if we need to modify your remedies, because it's freed up all the channels to help the energy flow much more freer in our systems. That's the good thing, I think, having different modalities. Like, you probably don't have this anymore, Eugenie, because you're so established, but sometimes people aren't really sure what homeopathy is. And for me, one of the good things about being a multi-modality practitioner is people come in for massage, because it's fundamental body, material realm kind of stuff. And I can give them a massage and they're like, what was that? That was more than a massage, because I'm working on them energetically. And I do tell them that.
Yeah.
And then often after that, they'll book in for homeopathic session, because I'll explain to them about energy a little bit more, and vibration, and how frequency works, and how our body is a whole being, and that we don't need to separate into all these different departments. You heal the whole thing, not just the one thing. But yeah, I think I went off on a tangent.
No, I love tangents. I love tangents. But so, Janey, how were you introduced to homeopathy? So, you've got this energy healing background, so it's not a far leap for you to go to homeopathy. But what was your introduction? And you trained in Ireland, right, at the Irish school?
I trained in the Irish School of Homeopathy, Jerry and Angie Murphy. Oh my God, what a gorgeous couple. And I think Eugenie, homeopathy found me. I was traveling around India when I was 20, 21, and I got really, really sick, typical kind of green, first time in India, and so sick. And I got giardia and gastroenteritis at the same time. So I think when I went to India, I weighed, I was pretty lean. I was 55 kilos. And after being there for 3 months and getting so sick, I was down to 46 kilos and so thin, painfully thin. I got to the stage after I think I was there for about 8 weeks. And I was not in a good place. My best friend was like, you need to go to the doctor. And I was like, I'm not going to the doctor. I couldn't get out of bed. I was really bad puking up all the time. No, anytime I put anything into my body to nourish myself, I would get sick again. And because I was in my early 20s, I was partying like a crazy beast. You're in India, and I was into the Goan trance scene, and that's why I was there. And eventually she said, no, come on, you're going to the doctor. So we found this doctor in Goa. And, oh, madam, you're not very good, are you? And lay me down on his, I love India so much. It's like my spiritual home. And he gave me these little white pillows. Take those, madam, you will be fine. Off you go out the door. And I was like, I couldn't really even hardly walk. He gave me a Arsenicum album, my first remedy. And like the next day, I went home from there and I slept solid, sweated my butt off, and woke up the next day and I was like, well, I don't know what happened, but I feel so much better. And I had to take those little tiny white pillules for the next kind of 3 or 4 days. And now look, it didn't cure me, but it got me enough energy and back to kind of some sense of vitality that I had enough strength to continue my journey through India. You know, I had a whole nother month there, and then I had to go to Thailand. And that was how homeopathy found me. And I didn't realize even at the time, Eugenie, that it was homeopathy.
I was about to ask you that, if you actually knew that that's what it was, because a lot of people, when they're quite young and that's their first experience with homeopathy, they don't actually know what it was that they were given.
Didn't know. And I went home and I met one of my mum's friends, and she said, oh, you must have seen an Indian homeopath. And even then it still didn't kind of connect with me. And she actually gave me loads of propolis, and I started to take the propolis, and that's what eventually helped me, because I wasn't into medication. And previous to that, I'd been in Kenya, and before I went to Kenya, I really wanted to go to Zanzibar. And I mean, you know, I was 18, 19. I was 19 when I went to Egypt. I was so young. And Kenya, 20. And I had to get a hepatitis B vaccine.
Oh, did you have yellow fever as well? They usually have that.
And yellow fever, yeah, because I wanted to go to Zanzibar, and I had the most horrific side effects from those 2 vaccinations. Are we allowed to even say that word anymore?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
And from that moment, I went to Kenya, had the most amazing time in Kenya, but I kept meeting then all these other people that had had side effects from their vaccinations and side effects from their malaria medication. I met a lady and all her skin was peeling off from her malaria medication. And I was like, this is nuts. I'm never, ever, ever having another vaccination in my whole life. And then kind of fast forward a few years, when I did my massage training, the lady that trained me, really old German lady that I met in Rose Bay in Sydney, and she had 3 children, and the 2 eldest ones were damaged from the MMR vaccine. And so she had built that into her training to help educate massage therapists. And this was all these, you know, I wouldn't say red flags or anything, but it was like awakenings for me or something. And I just thought then and there, if I ever have kids, I'm never, ever going to vaccinate them. And I had already at that stage started, you know, in my 20s, I'd done crystal healing workshops and tarot card workshops and oracles and massage and aromatherapy and Swedish. She was teaching me Swedish massage and aromatherapy, and she was like a medicine woman. So her teachings probably set me up for my style of healing. And then I also went to India another time, and I trained there with a family of Ayurvedic doctors, and that was all they'd ever done. Their whole line had been Ayurvedic medicine, and they'd always specialized into massage. So I was up in Bagsunag, which is just north of Dharamsala, and just found them. They were there. They had a little sign outside their house. And so I did like a really immersive, intensive 2-week training with them, which was like every single day from early in the morning until late at night, and learnt their method of Ayurvedic massage. So I kind of have fused my modalities together. to create the style that I do. And after the homeopathy kept kind of coming, back into my life in really unusual ways. And in the early 2000s, one of my best friends in the UK, I was living in Brighton for a long time, Eugenie. That's where I based myself. And she was living in France, and she had this huge snowboarding accident. She went off a cliff, and even though she checked the bottom to make sure her landing was fine, when she landed, she just hit the kind of snow, didn't hold, and she put her knee through her eye socket, nearly broke her back. Really horrible accident. Really lucky, actually, that she's still with us. But she came back to Brighton to convalesce after she got released from hospital, and she came to stay with me. And she said, I have to go to somewhere near Brighton. It might have been Seven Oaks or something like that. And she said, I have to go and see this woman. She's going to do some work on me. And I said, oh, fine, yeah. I'm driving her everywhere, feeding her food and looking after her and doing Reiki on her. And I said, oh, I'm coming, let's go. And we got to this little cottage, all overgrown, it's this little archway, and we pull up, and this little old lady appears, and I was like, oh my God, she's like 500 years old, she's just this magic witchy woman. And she just kind of, brings us in, and she takes us into this room, and wall to wall covered in shelves with homeopathic remedies. She had a machine for succussing. She had all different kinds of radionics machines. She had a bench in the middle. The whole room was like an apothecary. It was like something off Harry Potter. And I was just like, wow, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And she put Nosh on the table and just started dousing. She said straight away, oh, you've no dopamine stores left. Because of the accident, her dopamine just released. We all know what dopamine does, just totally released. So no dopamine left. So she goes over to one of her machines and puts a vial in and starts to succuss the dopamine, takes it off, gives one to Nush, and then, kind of all this other magic, hands in the energy fields, adjusting the subtle bodies, holding her head, putting her hands over her eyes, more remedies. And I was just like sitting on the chair going, wow, this is real witchy poo stuff. I'm sold. I'm totally sold. And, we get confirmation of these things because Nush had to go back to the specialist. They wanted to do surgery to correct her eye injury and everything. And Carol was this little lady's name. She said, no, you won't need surgery. We're going to fix you. So we went back and forth to her regularly because of the intensity of the accident. And by the time Nush got to the surgeons and to the specialists, they were like, your eye, like what happened? You don't need surgery anymore. Oh my goodness. The scarring had completely almost disappeared. The eye socket had fused itself back together. Thank you, symphytum. Like just this crazy healing took place. And yeah, that was me. So when I moved to Ireland, I started to look for a school to study with. And 6 years now, I'm a homeopath. And that was my journey, and I used it for all my births. I had all my children at home, Eugenie. So I had my first two in New Zealand and my second two here in Ireland. And the only thing I used was homeopathics, aromatherapy. And I know how blessed and fortunate I am to have been able to experience birth in that way. And those remedies, they allowed me to do that. And without them, I would have had to have had a hospital birth. So, when you experience homeopathy on that level, it's just game changer. And part of my work now that I'm really being guided to step into is bringing this to mums. And I guess to start with a general practitioner, you have to find your way. And because of the massage work and the Reiki work that I was doing, I kind of stepped immediately into all these really full-on neurological things, Eugenie, because I was working with people with Huntington's disease and Guillain-Barré syndrome and multiple sclerosis in a energetic capacity. And my clinic started to pull those people in. So it was like, oh my goodness, Robin
Straight into the thick
Murphy.
of it.
Yeah, his Materia Medica, because
The
he did a
clinical.
lot of his work with neurological stuff. Oh my goodness. But then I realized, wow, this is intense work. This is big for somebody who's just trained as a homeopath. I need to do something less heavy. And so I started to call in different clients, and my clinic started to change. And then I did this amazing course with a couple of other homeopaths. You know, Rita, you've interviewed Rita Cara
Oh,
Robinson.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and another Irish homeopath here, Antoinette McQueenie. They run years ago in 2019, they made a course called Homeopathy for Heart-Centered Homeopaths.
Oh.
And it was beautiful. And a lot of us that did that course are still really good friends now. And I realized then that I wanted to navigate my work more towards women's health. And then when all the madness hit in 2020, I still kept practicing, but my homeopathy slowed down and the energy alchemy took off. Really just exploded, because all these people, I went on a few truther shows or YouTube podcasts, and from that, but just got all these people from all around the world. Actually, JCK, she's a truther from Australia, and I just hooked her and Mel Cooks up, and they did a show together to kind of bring homeopathy to her community as well. And she's got nearly 100K on her YouTube channel. So, there's this potent thing happening, isn't it, from that madness in 2020 and 2021, and energy medicine and healing has just exploded. I think we're in a place where we've never been before with homeopathy. All the work you're doing, there's so much incredible stuff happening in homeopathy at the moment. And I think one thing that's happening is it's evolving really fast. I'm not just the only practitioner, I don't think, that works the way that I do, that we aren't just classical. Okay, I'm a trained classical homeopath. I work very intuitively, and also I try and work in the here and now, in the here and now, because the past and the future don't exist. So we have to be in the here and now. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned so much from doing the Maria Magdalena trituration.
Well, we can go straight into that if you want. So maybe just tell our listeners about this opportunity that came up and where you went and why you did it and who you went with and how we can get the remedy.
Look, it just landed.
Oh, it's beautiful. The label is gorgeous. You sent me a photo of it. Did Elise send that through to you?
I know, I designed it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So, that is such I'm the rebel of the family. I've always been, a little bit kind of out there. I got kicked out of Sunday school when I was 6 because I asked too many questions. The priest told mum and dad not to bring me back. I got kicked out of boarding school because I was just too rebellious, too much of a free spirit. Found it hard to be told what to do. Maybe I have an issue with authority a little bit.
Healthy skepticism, yep. It's very important.
And so organized religion was never boded well with me. I was like, hang on a second. I love it in its capacity to give people faith and the power of prayer. I don't love it because of the way that it has created humanity and almost dampened down our ability to trust in whatever is out there and know beyond, knowing that we are a God ourselves. If we're created in his eye, then we are just as divine as he or she is. So Reta, who runs the school in Helsinki, the homeopathic school in Helsinki, I teach there. and she had organized with Elise Timmerman a weekend of love in April. And Elise is the most incredible teacher. My goodness, that woman she's been a homeopath nearly my whole life, you know, over 40 years. Has such a wealth of knowledge, and a bit like me, a bit of a rebel. So she was teaching the love weekend, and we did Lacumanum and Vernix and love, and just she touched on Maria Magdalena and the Black Madonna, and her teachings are infused a lot with source energy. And she said at the end of the weekend, oh, how about we go to the cave of Maria Magdalena and make a trituration there for summer solstice? And I just said, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah. Well, without even thinking. And the solstice is my birthday as well. So I was like, it's a present to myself. And before we knew what was happening, Antoinette McQueenie, and she also teaches in the school, we'd booked our tickets, we'd booked our car, we'd got our parking at, like, we were there. We were there. We didn't ask any questions. We didn't ask how much it was going to cost or anything. We were there. So we flew into Nice and we spent a whole week in Elise's most beautiful house in the south of France. And we did lectures and we did triturations. And, you know, I thought, oh, I'm going on this amazing pilgrimage to Maria Magdalena, the feminine aspect of Jesus and Maria Magdalena, you know, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And I think the first day we arrived, we just swam, relaxed, ate food. And then the next day we went to these amazing markets and we were speaking all the time homeopathy, and Elise is always teaching in some ways. And then we drove to the caves the following day, to the mountains, and we had a kind of a ceremony at the bottom of the mountain under this incredible oak tree. And Elise, you know, it's coming into yourself and having that awareness as you're walking up to the cave that you're walking the path of Maria Magdalena. This is where, when she left after Jesus was murdered, this is where she spent the rest of her life, in this cave. And so it was this real introspective walk up. You know, it kind of took us probably 2 hours to get up there because we were going slowly, taking in the vista, communicating with each other. Some deep stuff started to come up already, you know, about past relationships and abortions, miscarriages, lost children. So we're already having an awareness of what the remedy is showing us, because you're in the field. Aren't you? You're in that field. When you have an openness to how homeopathy works, you start to notice all these little intricacies are connected, and that we're all also connected, aren't we? So we're walking up and we get to the top where the cave is, and we just decide to sit down. It's quite full on because you come up these stairs and all of a sudden there's Jesus Christ on the cross and the two other guys on their crosses, and they're tied on and he's like nailed on. Stigmata, isn't it? And it's like, whoa, oof. You just get such a kind of a sense of, this is what Maria Magdalena would have been experiencing in real life. This, like, her beloved is up there on the cross. So immediately there's this huge sense of loss and grief and terror and fear and sorrow. So, like, we sat there for a while and just rested and had some food, and this amazing lady came over because we were all dressed in red. You know, we wanted to really dive deep into the energy that we were creating. And there's a fountain on the way up called Le Source, and that's the water. We took some of that water with us, and I had brought water from Ireland. And like, when I travel, I always have Lac Lupinum, 33M, ayahuasca from Declan Hammond, and ruby, and my remedy that I made, Gaia, and a couple of other things. And I put them in the wells with the intention of them activating the water and bringing healing. So I poured my water into the well there and then filled my water bottle from that well as well. And once we got up to the top, the view is incredible. The view is amazing, Eugenie. It just blows your mind. And there's this incredible statue up there of Maria Magdalena holding Jesus' body.
Wow.
And then the cave is there. And I hadn't researched anything or looked anything up. I just wanted to go with a very open heart and mind. And I stood on the mouth of that cave, and it is absolutely humongous. Like, they hold mass in there. Like, there's pew after pew after, like, you can fit hundreds of people in that cave. And it's all wet, and there's water dripping from the ceiling, and you have to be silent in there. You have to be quiet. And there's candles everywhere and different places that you can sit. And it kind of, for me, I wanted to make ceremony straight away. And myself and Greta went straight over to one side of the cave and made some prayers and some blessings with some candles. And then we ended up wandering down. You go downstairs, and there's a well downstairs, but it's all kind of, you can't access it. It has that kind of wire meshing around it, and it just looks so stagnant and green and just ugh. So before I knew what I was doing, I broke into a song in Māori. You know the song Te Aroha?
No, sing it for us.
Te Aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi Māori e. And then you sing it 3 times. Oh. And it's the love, hope to us all. Love,
I know
hope.
I know this song, but I know Aroha is love. But that's
Aroha is love. Yeah. And like, I turned around, and the girls were all standing there, because there was 9 of us that went up. So Elise was the crone, and then there was 5 mothers, and there was 2 maidens, because some of the girls from Finland, their daughters came, and the girls were all standing there hugging, crying, and we just had this big embrace, and it was like it released all this energy. It was like an activation had to take in place in the cave then, it was just so powerful. And the frequency of Maria Magdalena is that unconditional love. If anybody's out there working with her energy and her frequency, that is one of the biggest takeaways from Maria Magdalena. And Eugenie, it was incredible. So I'm there putting my remedies into the water as well.
Into that dirty water that's in the cave there. The green
yeah. And let's potentize it with some frequencies as well, and sing the love back into the water, because it's, all the work Veda Austin is doing with water. It's like we come from water, so we have to kind of, I think when we come to these sacred sites and holy places, there's always a well somewhere, particularly here in Ireland. All the sacred sites often are connected to a holy well, and that water is curative and healing, and many people know the properties of that water and what it does. And that all kind of got lost for a while, but now it's all just so active and so alive in Ireland, and it's helping me move more into working with that medicine as well in my own way. After that, though, Eugenie, I had such deep medicine from that trip. So 5 years ago, my dad died, and after he died, my mum stopped communicating with my sister and I, which is really, really, like abandonment, and all these things happened to me after that. Of course, I was grieving my dad. Then I'd lost my mum. She didn't want to talk to us anymore. So I had this 5-year journey, with this pain, this loss. Nothing had happened. She had just decided something in her own head and didn't want to communicate that with my sister and I. So part of my pilgrimage to the cave of Maria Magdalena, and my intention was to heal that matriarchal line, that red thread. I've no control over my mum's decisions, but I felt at the time that I could send energy back and healing back to heal whatever it is in her that's caused her to stop the communication. And this is all alive in me right now, because we've been trying to finalize the proving and wrap everything up. So we've had a few Zooms ourselves lately and talks, and the WhatsApp group has been quite alive with feedback and stuff. And there's one part in the cave where you can kind of walk up, and there's a little golden glass box, and apparently it has a fragment of Maria Magdalena's bone in it. And the girls were calling now to come outside. We're going to start the trituration. But I was like, I have to go up to that area there and light a candle and make my prayer and my intention. And for me, this is a huge part of the energy of the trituration. So up I went, and there was people there praying, and I didn't want to stand in front of them because they were praying to this piece of Maria Magdalena, and I just thought, I have to do this. I have to do this. They're all there like this with their eyes closed. So I thought, okay, I just asked permission. That's okay. Let's go. I had my candle. I lit my candle. I made my intention. And I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to be able to help my mum heal. And stuck the candle onto these kind of spikes, and the whole thing just snapped in half.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like,
the candle, not the spike.
Can I swear? I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then I just burst into tears, and I got this immediate download or sense or intuitive message, whatever way you word it. And it was so strong. It was like, you don't need to heal the past. All women need to be in the here and now to heal. That is not your thing to heal. It's not about me going back and trying to heal that. It's about healing now, being in the here and now, and all women having the capacity to do that. And it was just like, whoa, so full on. Such a message from Maria Magdalena for me. You know, that was my biggest takeaway. And we went outside then, and Rata saw me and came straight over because she could see I was upset, and gave me a big hug. And she said, are you okay? And I told her what happened. And she literally said exactly that. It is done. You don't need to go back, Janey. That's done. You be in the here and now. This is the healing starts now. And I was just like, oh, she just literally told me what I received. So that for me was a confirmation. And we started the trituration, and it was so amazing. There's like 6 of us all sitting there outside, right outside the cave with our pestle and mortar, very quietly, you know, very kind of aware. People are watching what we're doing. Elisa is kind of holding space for us, doing an odd bit of trituration from someone's bowl. And you can already start to feel this energy rising, you know, because when you, for people that aren't homeopaths and don't know what trituration is, you take a small amount of the substance into the pestle and mortar, and you add a little bit of milk sugar, and you start. But
substance in this case was just the energy, right? Or was there?
The energy, but also we'd taken a drop of water from the source.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'd had ceremony before under the oak tree and in the days leading up to it. And yeah, it was just incredible. We all just floated down the mountain, and the town nearby, there is a huge cathedral there, and the whole town is kind of devoted to Maria Magdalena. And inside the church, there's a crypt downstairs, and they have her skull. I mean, they say it's her skull. Who knows? And down we went, and I wasn't particularly gone being in the crypt myself. So I just went and had a look and went straight back upstairs. And then we did the next bit of the trituration in the cathedral. And it was really interesting because when we were up at the cave, everybody was just doing it openly. And then in the cathedral, I was like, oh, film a video of everyone doing it. And I turned around, and some of the girls had their scarves over their bowls because they were worried that we might get in trouble for triturating in the cathedral. And they were being respectful, of course, as well. But I was like, hours out, you know, triturating, being the rebel again. And yeah, then we went and had, you know, some food and everything. And the next day, or the day after, we went again, and that was C2 then, Eugenie. And you know yourself in homeopathy, when you get the simillimum, you can induce somebody to sleep because that remedy is going so deep, it just makes the whole body rest, restore, repair. Okay. So we start the trituration for C2. I fell asleep triturating. The girls took a photo of me. I'm fast asleep on the floor, hand on my pestle and mortar, and still gone to the world. So I think for me, it was my simillimum. In that moment. I won't say it's my constitutional remedy and get stuck on that, but I think in that moment and after that kind of experience that I had in the cave, I got my simillimum and Maria Magdalena C2 and had such a deep, deep healing. And I never thought I would be working this way with this woman, this energy, this love, this magic, but it has changed something in me and in my practice as well, Janey. It has done so many amazing things, and I think that's one of the reasons we do triturations, and for me anyway, because I want people to heal, and I'm a seeker, and triturations and provings are so important for homeopaths, and it helps us to have such a deeper understanding, not just of the remedy, but of ourselves and of all those clients that come into our lives. Then you start, your own life starts to mirror, or vice versa, the people that find you. And this is, for me, the magic. And what Jeremy Sher, I did 2 years of Dynamis with him, and he's like, this is the thing that's missing from homeopathy. Everybody needs to do provings. And he's nearly died on some of his provings. But yeah, I think the Maria Magdalena stuff has helped me like really deepen. Like I said, my woman's work, I've started doing womb blessings more now, and my womb work is really, really growing legs. There's a festival here on Saturday, and I'm doing a 1-hour womb blessing for a group of women. And I'm training to be a doula next month.
I was about to ask, I saw you post about that. Oh my gosh, you're going to be amazing in that. And the women are going to, whoever gets you to be their doula is going to be the luckiest person alive.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. I can't, and babies, and that song that I sung to you guys, now I can't believe I just did that. But anyway,
you've got a beautiful voice.
Well, every time I've been to a lot of deliveries, that's the first song I sing to a newborn baby. Te aroha. It's like a transmission, isn't it? That's how I feel about those things. It's a transmission that you can move energy that way with your voice. You can give somebody Reiki healing with your eyes. You're beaming love at people. You're pushing, you're emitting that, your toroidal field, which is like the donut that comes from our heart center. You can radiate that energy out to people. You don't have to be trained in anything to work with energy. It's having an awareness and a consciousness of it. But yeah, that whole birthing journey, Eugenie, I'm so excited about that.
I love babies and birth and pregnancy, and just that whole journey is just, you must love it if you had 4 babies yourself.
I know.
I gave up at 2. I'm like, no more. The 2 is my limit. A third one would break me.
Yeah,
definitely not doing 4.
Only one of them was planned, and that was my daughter, who arrived second. The boys just arrived.
I always say, whenever parents tell me, say that the child wasn't planned, I was like, well, you didn't plan them, but they planned themselves. Like, it's always... But tell us a little bit, Janey, about where people can get hold of you. So you've got your YouTube channel, you're on Instagram, and you've got your website. Just tell, like, anybody who wants to work with you, distance or in person, where they can get hold of you. And you've got a beautiful center there. How can people get hold of you?
I think the best thing is go directly to my website, and there's a option there to connect with me, and you can just hit that. It sends me an email. I'm really quite active on Instagram, more so than Facebook, because I got so shadow banned for being such a rebel,
Well, just say the name as well, because you actually work under the name Sage and Seer. Where did
Sage
the
and
name come?
Seer.
Yeah, sageandseer.com,
Oh,
and you're
sorry.
Sage
Yeah.
and
So
Seer on
Sage
Instagram,
and Seer,
and Sage and Seer on YouTube as well.
sageandseer.com. Sage and Seer on YouTube, Sage and Seer on Instagram, Sage and Seer on Facebook. It's, yeah,
And your website,
you'll
yeah.
find me and my website. Yeah. And then you can book directly through my website. And I have to upgrade it because I'm in this premises now. So don't worry about the house photo. But that is the best way to get me through my website. And Eugenie, I have some courses coming up. I'm teaching a Reiki Shodan, which is your level 1 at the end of this month. If there's anyone out there watching this in Ireland and they want to come to Sligo Ballina area, that's happening. And then, yeah, myself and Rita have some really exciting stuff happening as well from Finland. And she's actually arriving here on Wednesday morning. And we are in discussion about opening a international school, but not what you think.
I'm sure if you're involved, it's not what anyone would think.
Of homeopathy. So that's kind of brewing away. And
cool.
So keep an eye out for stuff there, because it'll be more for people who are already practitioners to step into a different way, maybe of using my methods to prescribe. And of course, Rita is a shiatsu queen. She has just opened a sacred water shop. She's been a homeopath for over 20 years. So there's this kind of, you should get her on the show, actually. Yeah. There's this portal is kind of, happening at the minute. And actually, we're meeting Declan on Wednesday, Declan Hammond. And the three of us are going to do...
so jealous. I want to be there.
We're going to do a trituration of all different kinds of cacao.
Oh, well, I'm glad you said that, because I've been waiting to put in here that some of our listeners might know about the homeopathy conference that, well, I actually, when I see a conference and then I see a big cross through it and I see connection, like it's not a homeopathic conference, it's a homeopathic connection that we are going to have from the 4th till the 6th of September in Ubud in Bali. So I'll have some more information on my website and my Homeopathy Hangout podcast Facebook group. But Janey has agreed that she will do a cacao ceremony for us at this conference. And Danitza Appeline is going to be doing a family constellations workshop for us to help clear a lot of this scarcity mentality, the persecution mentality, just as homeopaths, it's like we have this thing that we're not allowed to thrive and do well. And so we did a mini family constellations with Danitza once, just about 4 or 5 of us, but we're going to get all 60 of us at this homeopathic connection to be part of the family constellation. So we'll be calling in Hahnemann and Kent and Robin Murphy and Misha Norland and all these masters, and really clearing a lot of this stuff, and I think it's going to be amazing. I think energetically
that just sounds incredible.
Shit around homeopathy that's stopping us from living our fullest potential as homeopaths and as a profession worldwide, and stopping us from getting the recognition and it is about the recognition, because homeopathy is incredible, but it doesn't get recognized for the amazing work that it does. And it's just always persecuted in so many countries around the world, and we always have to kind of prove ourselves and fight for our right to have access to these medicines. And it's just a constant battle. So I'm excited about this family constellations. I think it's going to energetically clear a lot of that shit, so we can actually just do our work and help people and thrive. So
that just sounds fab. Yeah.
It's going to be,
yeah, I think that will be amazing, powerful. And the cacao ceremony for, grounding everybody into the frequency of earth and activating our heart centers and really evoking the energy of unconditional love. And that will echo the work that Danitz is doing, because it's unconditional love for self and for others and for the unity, So we have to heal the healer, Eugenie, don't we?
Absolutely. And I'm excited about us sourcing some beautiful, organic, local Balinese cacao for us to do the ceremony with.
I'm on it. On it.
I am so excited about seeing you in person, Janey. I am going to give you the hugest cuddle ever, and Declan. And I just, like I said, it's just an excuse to catch up with all these amazing homeopaths from around the world. I can't wait to meet
Oh,
all of you in person.
we're going to
It's
be
gonna,
high as kites on
I know.
just the
I
vibes. It's going to be wow.
I said to Danitza just yesterday, I'm already stressing about how quickly those 3 days are going to go. But on the fourth day, we're thinking of doing this trek up Mount Batur to watch the sunrise. And, we can do ceremony up
Yeah.
there as well. But there'll definitely be like a fourth and fifth optional day of
Mm,
excursions
mm.
because it's just not going to be enough. I think we could all be
Yeah.
there we could be there for a month and it still won't be enough. Because whenever I'm with other homeopaths, like when I was in Bali this week, I caught up with Yaguda and, like we only met each other in person 2 months ago when I was in Bali, but we don't really know each other from a bar of soap, apart from, a few Facebook conversations here and there. But we chatted for like 5 or 6 hours straight, and there was never a gap in the conversation. Like we were constantly one interrupting the other because we're just like, and that's the thing when I find when I'm with fellow homeopaths, we never run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, because we're in resonance. We
Yeah,
found our similiment in our colleagues.
exactly. Such a
Oh, I
privilege.
love
Hey,
it, Jeannie. Oh,
everybody
I
deserves.
hope you have people helping in whatever capacity. And climbing a mountain at the end of the conference, that is important because the mountain signifies that strength, that solidity, that kind of connection between, the mortal realm, the earth, and also the heavens, the esoteric realms. So it's almost like you're conquering something to birth what your intentions are, like what you just said. We want to bring homeopathy up to a level where people acknowledge it for what it is. There's no fear involved. There's no poverty in being a homeopath. There is enough sick people in this world now for there to be another million homeopaths.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, let's go. Let's go.
As you're talking, I just suddenly thought because we'll have Chokadei, who's part of the royal family in Ubud, will be with us, and so we might have to like organize doing a trituration at the top of Mount Batur.
Yeah.
Just as you're talking, I'm like, well, because I've been thinking of us maybe doing a meditative proving about the kupu kupu barong, which is a moth in Bali, a Balinese moth. That's the size of your hand. It's huge, and I obviously
Wow.
love working with moths and butterflies, and so I was thinking meditative proving would be really nice. But now I'm just thinking maybe a trituration
Mm.
at the top of Mount Batur. So many options, Janey.
Wow.
Not
Well,
enough
and
time.
please, anything we do in this way, any work homeopaths are doing, proving wise, situation wise, it's sacred work and you must do ceremony before. You have to. It's so important that you're working with healing intentions, you're honoring whatever, you know. For me, I work so much with the elements and the Celtic wheel and the compass. It's so important that we honor all these medicines and remedies that we're working with and frequencies with an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony for them. So, yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
I
Can't
can't
wait.
wait either. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been so looking
Oh,
forward to our chat. I'm sorry I had to cancel it last week due to my impromptu trip to Bali, but I'm
wow,
glad that
wow, wow, come on. That's just, yeah, that's how
I'm
you
glad we could
roll.
catch up
Amazing.
tonight. Well, today, well, earlier in the day, your time, but it's just so lovely. And I love that we're in
Oh,
continuous conversation with each other. It's really such a privilege to have connected with you. And I'll
me
see you
too,
this
you
time next year
too.
in Bali in person.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you, Eugenie. And thanks everyone to watching. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.